Good evening and a very warm welcome to this fourth episode of my War Poetry and the Odd Song vlog. You're very welcome. It is hot and humid still in Manchester, but it makes the cricket interesting tomorrow. My sponsorship deal with Skull Crusher Coffee has run out, so no more Death Before decaf until they send me some more, and hopefully a t-shirt or two. Tonight, this broadcast is sponsored by Pure Leaf Tea, loose leaf tea. This I paid for, they might give me a free sample, you never know. If anyone wants to send anything my way, feel free. I'm at PD Hodges, that's Papa Delta, Hotel Oscar, Dog Grease Echo Sierra at gmail.com. Hook up onto the mailing list, like and subscribe to this vlog. So again, I'm going to have a bit of song, but I'm going to cross promote another organisation, which is the British Youth Music Theatre, which is based in opposite the Old Vic, basically in the Young Vic, opposite the Old Vic at Waterloo in London. And of course all the theatres are tragically having a horrible time of it with COVID, so anything we can do to support them is good. This is just literally promoting their 2018 production of Barrack Room Ballads. So it's Rudyard's, Kipling's late Victorian colonial poetry we're doing today. So I'm going to read some out of a lovely Folio Press edition of Selected. There's about 90 odd he wrote. This has only got selected in, but I'll read a few until I get too tired. But before that, we've got a 5-minute, 15-second little video that I won't show you. I'll just stream the audio. If you want to check it out, just go to YouTube and type in Barrack Room Ballads. It's the second hit. Enjoy this. Let's make sure I put it up nice and loud. British Youth Music Theatre.
Barrack Room Ballads was originally a set of 87 poems by Rudyard Kipling, written way before the First World War, about the experiences of the regular Tommy, as he was called, in the British Army all over the world. So they were all written in the style of music hall ballads, even though there was no music written for them. So we're doing it at the National Army Museum to help celebrate the end of the First World War, 100 years on.
And being in a thrust performance space with the audience all around, knowing that you're seen by people above, people below, people on the same level as you, people behind you, having to activate every part of your body instead of just the front. It's a different way of acting than just a normal theatre production. My approach to making a lot of the choreography was really delving into the rigidness and physicality of your everyday soldier. Personal strength, personal growth, the transformation most people take from being from all different walks of life.
Bit of a tap dance here, so do check it out.
It's a very dynamic piece of theatre, and it's really experimental for me personally, because we heard it was a big thing in Europe.
Yes.
The kind of theatre that we're trying to show the audience. So it's really been an interesting project to work on.
Definitely. I've been doing theatre for quite a while now, but I've learnt so much on this course that I didn't know there was more to learn. So it's just been incredible. All of the creative team are absolutely incredible. It's been fab.
I think it just gets better every year you try. There's so much experience and you work with real professionals in the industry that really develop your skills for the near future.
Right, I'm going to stop it. There. It's got another couple of minutes to go, but you get the drift of how clever composer and director set some of these ballads to music in a music hall style, which music hall is a great tradition in working class areas all over the UK and Europe. Saucy, sort of funny songs, very distinct style. I mean, from mid-Victorian period right through until sort of Second World War was the final nail in the coffin. It really got killed off by the cinema industry, taking all the clients essentially. There's some revivalists. There's a lovely hall that survived in the East End of London. I hope it's still surviving. That do a lot of traditional musical. I suppose it would be similar to Black and White Minstrel Show, which we used to have on telly in the 70s. But it's a lot more saucy and rude, and punny, and punning on swear words and prostitution and all sorts. It's the musical has everything. Richard Thompson, the famous folk guitarist, is a very strong fan of music hall, and when he did his 1,000 Years of Popular Music tour, which is available on CD, he did. I saw it live in Wimbledon, and he did a couple of musical numbers very, very well. So check Richard Thompson out. Check out British Youth Music Theatre. They've only got 675 views for that excellent little trailer 2 years ago at the British Army Museum. So subscribe to that. I'm going to add a comment and a link to my vlog, and we can spread the love and the news. So I'm going to bring the iPad down safely and crack on with a few of Rudyard Kipling's Bowron Ballads. Now, apparently, from publication of these, which first serialised, like a lot of Victorian stuff, Dickens and what have you, serialised in a newspaper first. Can't remember it tells me in here in a second. Yes. He wrote for the Civil and Military Gazette. No, he was a editor, and that's when he wrote them. Don't actually say which paper it published it in. But basically, what it does say in the preface is that Rudyard Kipling returned to England from India in October 1889. He was not quite 24, and he hoped to make his fortune with stories and verses, reflecting the Indian experience. So obviously the most famous piece of literature is The Jungle Book. Most people will have seen the original Disney cartoon or the live-action-y Digimation version. I love the original cartoon because it's so funny. There's the Digimation is a bit more serious and not quite as good in my humble opinion, but you may vary. The book's very great, very good little read, real children's book. Other stuff from the same sort of period. There's a collection called Plain Tales from the Hills. Lots of short stories there, excellently good too. So this Bowron Ballads and Other Verses appeared, we heard it was 87 odd ballads, appeared in book form in 1892. And for the next 30 or 40 years, it was the most popular book of verse in the English-speaking world, including America. Amazing how it's been pretty much forgotten now, certainly compared to the Jungle Book. So, lots of famous poets spread the love in the preface. In 1962, the Russian poet Yevgeny Yevtushenko, on a visit to England, announced that the best loved modern British poet in Moscow was Kipling. Kipling was born in Bombay in 1865. His father was an artist, ethnologist, and expert on Indian arts and crafts. His mother moved in pre-Raphaelite circles, the famous Victorian painters, and was Burne-Jones's sister-in-law. So he had a very happy childhood in India up to the age of 6, when he was sent back to England to live with unsympathetic evangelical guardians. Yes, so he loved Turkey, loved to be in India, and that's when he created most of these. Now they're in the vernacular, so they're my normal speaking voice. I have to go, I'm a Southern grammar school boy. I have a Southern London accent or home counties accent, which I always, when I listen to the vlogs or any audio backs, I think, God, I sound like Prince Charles. Now I've got to try and put on a working class accent, and I apologise if I offend you by trying to do so. I won't do Manchester, I'll do vaguely London. Okay, so Sue Bradbury wrote those little bits of preface in this Folio Press edition, and we start off with the dedication Kipling wrote himself, which is to T.A. I've made for you a song, and it may be right or wrong, but only you can tell me if it's true. I've tried for to explain both your pleasure and your pain, and Thomas, here's my best respects to you. Oh, there'll surely come a day when they'll give you all your pay and treat you as a Christian ought to do. So until that day comes around, heaven keep you safe and sound. And Thomas, here's my best respects to you. Sorry, messed up the last line. So TA, what does TA stand for? Well, Thomas is the clue. It's British slang for an average private soldier is always nicknamed Tommy Atkins. Why, I don't know. I have got a Brewer's Book of Phrase and Fable lying around somewhere, but I haven't looked it up. Tommy. I mean, then you get Tommy gun, which we still use as a slang for a machine gun a bit, and I think that's spread to America too. But you don't call American soldiers Tommies. I can't remember what their nickname was. I think it depends on which Civil War side you fell on. But I'd have to check that one out in a military encyclopedia or something. So anyway, so that's the introduction to Tommy Atkins, and let's crack on with a couple of very famous poems back in the day. This one is called Danny Deever. What are the bugles blowing for? Said Files on Parade. To turn you out, the colour sergeant said. What makes you look so white, said Files on Parade. I'm dreading what I've got to watch, the colour sergeant said. For they're hanging Danny Deever, you can hear the Dead March play. The regiment's in Hollow Square, they're hanging him today. They've taken off his buttons off and cut off his stripes away, and they're hanging Danny Deever in the morning. What makes the rear rank breathe so hard, said the Files on Parade. It's bitter cold, the colour sergeant said. What makes that rank man fall down, said Files on Parade. A touch of sun, the colour sergeant said. They are hanging Danny Deever, they are marching off him round. They have halted Danny Deever by his coffin on the ground, and he'll swing in half a minute for a sneaking shooting hound. Oh, they're hanging Danny Deever in the morning. His cot was right and cot to mine, said Files on Parade. He's sleeping out and far tonight, the colour sergeant said. I've drunk his beer a score of times, said Files on Parade. He's drinking bitter beer alone, the colour sergeant said. They're hanging Danny Deever, you must mark him to his place. For he shot a comrade sleeping, you must look him in the face. 900 of his county and the regiment's disgrace, while they're hanging Danny Deever in the morning. What's that so black again in the sun, said Files on Parade. It's Danny Deever fighting hard for his life, the colour sergeant said. What's that whimpers overhead, said Files on Parade. It's Danny's soul that's passing now, the colour sergeant said. For they're done with Danny Deever, you can hear the quick step play. The regiment's in column and they're marching us away. Ho, the young recruits are shaking and they'll want their beer today after hanging Danny Deever in the morning. Yeah, I think that's a great tragic, serious, vaguely comic poem. Yeah, really clever rhythm and meter and all that malarkey. And it touches, of course, on my pet subject, which is Brutality in the Trenches, is the name of the 2021 book, which I'd like you all to buy, of course. so his hanging isn't actually defined as an atrocity; it's a judicial murder. The best author on capital punishment in the First World War in the British side is a left-wing historian called Gerard Oram. I can recommend his 2 books on the capital punishment. One's sort of facts and figures book, which I can't remember the title of. The other one's called Worthless Men. All talk about eugenics, basically. If they didn't think you were a good soldier, so obviously, famously, dozens upon dozens got shot for cowardice, giving up their arms, or just basic collapsing with shell shock, but endangering the lives of others. There was one, indeed, like Danny Deever, there was one private, I think in 15, who was executed at dawn by rifle fire, as was traditional in the army. They did the hanging went out of fashion in the late Victorian period. So shot at dawn, one case of murder, and he basically he shot a comrade in the trenches for a somewhat trivial reason. And I think drink was involved too, as it often is with atrocities. I talk about that in my book. Of course, there were lots of rapes committed in the British Army, and none of them attracted the death sentence. So we can see where the double standards lie. You can collapse shaking with shell shock and get shot for that. And and we shot about 8 times more men than the Germans, and French shot only a handful. The Americans, literally 1 or 2, I think. Can't remember the precise figures. There was a controversy in the Boer War when we shot I think he was a captain in the Australian expeditionary force to the Boer War. Colonel Dyer? I forget. There's a very long, very good book called Shoot Straight, You Bastards, which I highly recommend, and there was a film based on the case, which was okay. It was middling. So, capital punishment, covered in the first Danny Deezer poem. So here we hit you up with, they're quite long these, so yeah, I'll just hit you up with one more, I think, which is called Tommy. Tommy Atkins again, so just your average private in the British Army, probably in India or England or somewhere. Doesn't really matter. It's it must be England, because the first line it mentions a good old pub, and who doesn't love a pub apart from some people who don't, teetotalers, for example. Although some might love the pub just for the drunken chat. Okay, so this is Tommy by Rudyard Kipling from Ballad Room Ballads. I forgot. Barrack. Got it wrong. Barrack Room Ballads. Get it right, Hodges. Right. Tommy. I went into a public house to get a pint of beer. The pub looked me up and says, "We serve no redcoats here." The girls beyond the bar, they laughed and giggled fit to die. I out into the street again, and to myself says I, "Oh, it's Tommy this and Tommy that and Tommy go away. But it's thank you, Mr. Atkins, when the band begins to play. The band begins to play, my boys, the band begins to play. Oh, it's thank you, Mr. Atkins, when the band begins to play." I went into a theatre as sober as could be. They gave me a drunk civilian room, but hadn't none for me. They sent me to the gallery or round the music halls, but when it comes to fighting, Lord, they'll shove me in the stalls. For it's Tommy this and Tommy that and Tommy wait outside. But it's special train for Atkins when the troopers on the side. The troopers' ship's on the tide, my boys, the troop ship's on the tide. Oh, it's special train for Atkins when the troopers on the tide. Yes, making mocker uniforms that guard you while you sleep is cheaper than them uniforms, and they're starvation cheap. And hustling drunken soldiers when they're going large a bit is 5 times better business than parading in full kit. Then it's Tommy this and Tommy that and Tommy's how's your soul. But it's thin red line of heroes when the drums begin to roll. The drums begin to roll, my boys, the drum begins to roll. Oh, it's thin red line of heroes when the drums begin to roll. We aren't no thin red heroes, nor we aren't no blackguards too, but single men in barracks, most remarkable like you. And if sometimes our conduct isn't all your fancy paints, well, single bells and men in barracks don't grow into plaster saints. Well, it's Tommy this and Tommy that and Tommy fall behind. But it's pleased to walk in front, sir, when there's trouble in the wind. There's trouble in the wind, my boys, there's trouble in the wind. Oh, it's pleased to walk in front, sir, when there's trouble in the wind. You talk of better food for us and schools and fires and all. We'll wait for extra rations if you treat us rational. Don't mess about with the cook's room slops, but prove it to our face. The widow's uniform is not the soldier's man's disgrace. For it's Tommy this and Tommy that, and chuck him out, the brute. But it's saviour of his country when the guns begin to shoot. And it's Tommy this and Tommy that, and anything you please. And Tommy ain't a blooming fool, you bet that Tommy sees. Great poem again. Witty, humorous, true in contemporary Britain. I mean, austerity Britain and COVID Britain. I had I've had two COVID tests done, and I've had symptoms both negative. And one was in a local football stadium car park, Broadhurst Park, just near here. And it was all run by army medics, very, very efficiently. And yeah, we do undervalue soldiers. They get, I mean, you can, I think you used to be able to join up to 16. It's formally 18, although they'll do apprenticeships in the TA or whatever at 16, I think still. So yeah, you join up at 18. Starting salary 4 or 5k less than the starting salary for a police officer. And of course, in the UK, police officers aren't routinely armed. Actually, we have gun specialists who are, but of course, soldiers' business is to go and fight and die for the country. So whether they're paid 5k less than a policeman, I do not know, because they're undervalued. Sailors and the RAF get a little bit more, but not much more, unless you're a pilot or something, or a general. Then the salary is not too bad. But yeah, they're underfunded, like nurses and everything in the UK to a certain extent. And God knows what the future holds for the brave nurses and the brave soldiers. Yeah, we don't know the future. We cannot predict, but they're certainly both in the front line against COVID. Well, that just about brings this, again, another fairly lengthy vlog of war poetry to an end. Do sign up to the mailing list at pghodges at gmail.com. Drop me a line. It'd be great to know someone is listening or watching out there. Not many views so far, but I'm just going to plough on regardless, and not going to buy any Google ads or anything. I think that's a mug's game. So what I'm planning to do for episode 5 is go right back in time to Homer, ancient Greece. So among the most ancient poetry you can get. I mentioned Simon Armitage, who's the poet laureate of Britain. Had translated. He's translated 2 of the key the E2 Homer works, which are the Iliad and the Tales of the Homer's Odyssey, essentially. So the Iliad, which is Simon Armitage already poetically translates into the last days of Troy. The Iliad, slightly bigger scope. It talks about Paris kidnapping Helen, which was the prompt for the war, and of course the Greek ships and their hero Achilles sailing off to Troy to eventually lay siege, cleverly get inside, kill the opposing hero Hector, and slash and burn. So it's a real war, and it's was the first real long epic poems. There are some earlier epics in Indian and Babylonian sort of civilizations too. So we might have a look at Gilgamesh or something like that. But for Western thought, Homer is so key, because Homer greatly influenced the Roman poets. I mean, Virgil's the most famous Roman ancient classical Roman poet with the Aeneid, which is again war themey. So we might look at that sometime. I studied it in original Latin back in the day. I do have an A in GCSE Latin and a distinction in undergraduate first year medieval Latin. Medieval Latin is great because they make as many mistakes as you do. They don't know what they're doing. So highly recommended. So yeah, Simon Armitage on Troy. We'll do Troy. We won't do the Odyssey yet. So tune in very soon. Good evening to you from humid Manchester, and enjoy whatever you're doing today. Thanks a lot. Bye.